speaker is Professor Yoel Yaari. And Professor Yoel Yaari is Professor Emeritus of Neurosciences at the Hebrew University Faculty of Medicine in Jerusalem. He has published numerous peer-reviewed articles on basic molecular and cellular mechanism of brain function and neurological diseases. In 2015, he began to investigate Holocaust historiography, focusing, among other topics, on Jewish women in resistance. He has published several Holocaust-related articles in public media. His documentary book, A Portrait of a Woman, recently published in Hebrew and is currently being translated into English. Yoel, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Do you hear me and do you see my...
Yes, yes.
Okay, so we are at Grodno, 24th of December, 1942, Christmas Eve. This is the building of the Gestapo, where the Gestapo agents hold a party. Here you can see a Gestapo officer leading 3 Polish women to the party. He invited them. Actually, he had a relationship with one of them, and he invited her and the 2 girlfriends that stayed with her and took a picture of them. And the name of these Polish women are Wanda Majewska, Krystyna Kosowska, and Bronislawa Limanowska. But the Gestapo agents do not know that these Polish women are actually underground operatives. Furthermore, they do not know that these 3 beautiful ladies are Jewish underground operatives. And their names are Tema Schneiderman, Lonka Kozhibrocka, about which I will expand my talk today, and Bela Khazan. And the 3 of them are on a mission on the way to Vilna. And they belong to the Dror underground movement, which soon will become part of the Jewish fighting organization. These 3 women are called couriers, and I will briefly summarize who the couriers are. Some of this information was already given today. These were young women in their late teens or early 20s. They were, most of them, senior or junior members of Jewish youth movements, mostly Zionist pioneering, but also communist and socialist. They manifested Aryan features like fair hair and blue eyes, and they disguised themselves as Catholics, wearing crosses on their necks and carrying Catholic prayer books in their purses. They were fluent in Polish, German, or other local languages without a Yiddish accent. They were mostly unmarried and without children, which allowed them greater flexibility and mobility. Above all, these women, I would say their number is about 30 or 40, they were courageous, resourceful, resilient, able to cope with extended loneliness, stress, danger, and torture. And even though they were called and still are called couriers, they acted as secret agents, spies, smugglers, and combatants. And none of them had professional training, so they had always to be resourceful and to improvise. What were the key functions of couriers during World War II? They accompanied senior male movement activists on mission. They found places for agricultural farms for kibbutzim, and they negotiated renting them from the owners. They visited movement branches all over occupied territory to recruit participants for seminars held in major towns like Warsaw, Vilna, Bialystok. They assisted movement members to cross borders to Slovakia, Hungary, on way to Palestine perhaps. They distributed bulletins to movement branches. They explored Jewish communities and updated movement leaders about their situation. They organized false papers, official stamps, stationery. They smuggled money, medicines, bulletin, messages into ghettos and out of ghettos. They smuggled out of ghettos archival materials and hid them on the Aryan side. They established and managed connections with non-Jewish undergrounds. They rented safe houses outside the ghetto for movement activists. They brought news about extermination to Jewish communities. They assisted youth in ghettos to organize resistance. They smuggled babies out of ghettos, placing them in orphanages, monasteries, and so on. They bought weapons from Aryans and smuggled them into ghettos. If not captured beforehand, they took a part in ghetto uprisings. Most of them were killed. Yitzhak Zuckerman, one of the leaders of the Jewish fighting organization, wrote later, after the war, about these courageous women. The girls played an invaluable role during this period, and their sacrifice was boundless. There's no doubt that without them, it would have been impossible to maintain the movement throughout the German occupation. All of them, and each, according to her ability, took risks and demonstrated unparalleled loyalty. One by one, they fell into German hands, and many of them were murdered. I asked myself from whence they drew their strength. What sustained them? It appears that it was a grand idea, and the extraordinary comradeship within the movement also played a significant role in this. Lonka Kozibrowska, one of the legendary couriers. She was born in 1916 in Pruszków, not far from Warsaw, Poland, to Abraham Kozibrowski, a member of Rechalutz, and the teacher who managed the gymnasium called Ivria, and the theater, Jewish theater. Her mother was Tzipora Feige, and she had one brother, David Kozibrowski. Because her family was strongly Zionist, she became a member of Freiheit youth movement, later became Dror. And here you can see her on summer camp in 1938 near Chechochinik, where she serves as an instructor to these young members of the movement. When the war broke, many of the Jewish pioneers, as you know, and many Jews fled from German-occupied territory to the territory held by the Soviets. Lonka also tried to do that, but she was caught on the border of the German-Soviet border, and she almost was executed because the Soviets believed she was a German spy. She looked like a German woman. She spoke fluent German, but nevertheless, she managed to get out of this trouble, and she returned to Warsaw, and then she became a courier. And we can see her on one of her missions, perhaps waiting for the possibility to infiltrate the Warsaw ghetto. So she's sitting here in the winter of between 41, 42, outside of the ghetto. Yitzhak Zuckerman wrote about Lonka. She was born to be a courier. She possessed all the natural attributes for it: charm, Aryan appearance, linguistic proficiency, and the ability to disguise herself. Much of her work was accomplished through Germans. She established connections with soldiers, officers, and railway workers who never knew what they were carrying or doing when they transferred her suitcases or performed other services for her. We would send her to the most perilous places where death loomed, and she would go, daring and self-assured. If anyone was naturally suited for underground work, it was Lonka. In this role, all her strength and skills were revealed: willpower, intelligence, charm, and wisdom. The underground seemed created for her to serve as its high priestess, and she served it with her entire being, loyalty, and devotion. Many young women undertook dangerous missions in those days, but Lonka transformed her work into an art form in her unique way and style, like a virtuoso who conjures new worlds from the keys of his instrument. She masterfully controlled all elements at her disposal, creating new versions of herself. If all her acquaintances from the war period, Jews, Poles, and Germans, were together, how many Lonkas would they describe? Which one was the authentic, genuine Lonka? At times, an arrogant German woman, gazing disdainfully upon the mass of Poles sprawling at the railway station and proceeding directly to the station restaurant, at whose entrance hangs the sign, "Only for Germans." Sometimes she's a modest, naive teacher, escaping from the gray reality into the world of literature and music. Sometimes an impudent smuggler, irritable, pushing through with fists and cursing deadly profanities. Yitzhak Zuckerman summarized. Blue eyes, a sculpted sharp nose, and blonde hair with long braids, arranged like a wreath upon her head. Yet within, a tender Jewish spirit dwells, bearing the weight of harrowing times and profound hardships. Another leader of the Jewish fighting organization, Sivia Lubetkin, also admired Lonka. A beautiful young woman, she said, blonde with an Aryan appearance, educated, endearing herself to people, and everyone who came in contact with her admired and cherished her. She was full of youthful energy, but what was special about her was the courage she was blessed with. She knew no obstacles in her actions, and there was no place she wouldn't reach. She would venture into cities and towns during acts of killing and liquidation, bearing a call for organization and defense. And when all hope seemed lost, when there appeared to be no recourse against the action, she would still risk her life to save even a single comrade. She would assert that to save one Jewish soul, it was worth risking one's own life. And risking her life she did, and eventually she was caught. On her way on a mission from Bialystok to Warsaw, in June 1942, early June 1942, she was captured at the Malkinia train station, midway between Bialystok and Warsaw. She was interrogated at the Gestapo headquarters in Warsaw, Schucha Street, and after 3 days of fierce interrogation and torture, she was sent to Pawiak prison in Warsaw. And after 5 months of imprisonment, she was deported to Auschwitz-Birkenau. When she was gone and when she was captured and did not come back to Bialystok, her comrade Bela Khazan was sent to look for her. And Bela Khazan was also captured at the Malkinia train station, tortured and interrogated at the Gestapo headquarters, sent to Pawiak, where she met Lonka, and the two became intimate friends, and together they were deported to Birkenau. And you can see here the list of deportees from Pawiak to Auschwitz, 52 Polish women. Krystyna Kosowska is Lonka, and Bronislava Limanowska is Bela. And here you can see the photo, the mugshot of Lonka when she arrived to Auschwitz-Birkenau on November 14th, 1942. As I said, or maybe I didn't, but I should tell it now, Lonka became ill with typhus. Bela as well, both of them were ill, and they were hospitalized in the Revier, in the hospital or infirmary of the women's camp in Birkenau. Bela Khazan managed to survive the illness, but Lonka became more gravely ill. And Bela Khazan, who survived the Holocaust, she wrote after that about Lonka's final days. Lonka's illness worsened day by day. She was literally burning up with typhus fever. On top of that, she fell ill with mumps and dysentery. Her condition deteriorated rapidly. She had grown deathly pale, her eyes sunken, reduced to a bundle of nerves and bones. It was clear she sensed her end was near. And then, gripping my hand tightly, she said, "I didn't manage to unwind the thread of life from the cocoon to its end. But you, Bella, you must go on. You will tell our story." These were her last words to me. She whispered, "Shalom," and then she was gone. When Lonka died, her Polish friends put a cross on her abdomen and started praying the Polish Christian prayers. And Bella would not allow Lonka leave this world as a Christian. So she begged the camp doctor, Dr. Rode, she asked him whether she could carry the corpse, Lonka's corpse, to the morgue by herself, rather than throw the body outside the barrack, as was done with dead women. And the doctor agreed, and Bella, with some friends, carried on a stretcher the body to the morgue, which was, this is just showing the death date, the date of death of Lonka. This is the list of women who died on that day, April 13th, 1943. So she carried her to a morgue, which was near crematorium number 2, where Lonka's body was cremated. And once the Polish friends left, Bella took away the cross that they placed on her, threw it away, and said the Kaddish after Lonka. 75 years later, myself, I went to this shed in Birkenau, and I put Lonka's photo on the wall, and I said the Kaddish, which Bella Chazan, my mother, by the way, said 75 years earlier. After the war, the ghetto people who were part of the ghetto uprising, some of them the leaders, became well-known heroes in Israel and in the Jewish world, but the couriers, like Lonka, which enabled the ghetto uprisings, were forgotten. However, in 2020, I submitted the story of Lonka to the Bnei Brit organization, and they issued her the Jewish Rescuers Citation, which has been conferred to her in recognition of the devotion, courage, and heroism exhibited in rescuing fellow Jews during the Holocaust. Thank you very much.
Wow.